All
We are
right.
live.
We are live. We are live. Welcome to the VANNguard Show. I'm Victoria Van, your host. I know right from the door, you all are saying, I can only see half of Victoria, right? That's true. It's not your eyes. So what happened is I dropped my phone in some water right before I started the show. So we about to do this with a gangster lean over to the side. So look, audience, y'all just flow with me and then we're gonna flow with you. All right. That being said, I would like to introduce, well, no, I'm gonna have my guest introduce himself. We agreed to this, right?
Yes.
And he's gonna drop it in Espanol. So go ahead.
Frank J. Aguilar, Cook County Commissioner, 16th District, and I'm here in Westchester. Soy Frank Aguilar, el comisionador del Distrito 16. And aquí estoy en Westchester with Trustee Victoria Van. Glad to be here.
Look at that. See, we bilingual up
That's
in
right.
here in the VANNguard
A dos
Show.
idiomas.
You know, Espanol up in here. You know what I'm saying?
Y en inglés.
Period.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do some El Ebonics conversation.
That's right. Spanglish.
Some young Spanglish. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here.
Certainly appreciate you. I'm glad that you reached out and we were able to make this happen. You're always welcome on the VANNguard Show.
Thank you.
First, I just want to give you your kudos for always being responsive to whenever I call you for any type of trusty Westchester related event. You're there, you know, no matter what. And when it's hot out, he pulls up in his Harley.
That's
So
right. I stole your ride. So we can,
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, he owes me a ride. So when he pulled up for the first, I think it was the first Juneteenth
on the
celebration, right?
Yes.
See, that's what I'm saying. Commissioner comes
It's been a
through.
while.
He came through, and it was my first year in office. I was only in office for about 30 days.
It's right. Great. It has grown so much. I
Yeah.
mean, it's becoming a very, very well-known event that you pulled. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you. But you were part of the foundation.
The beginning. Well,
yeah.
I just showed up with the bike.
You showed up, and you didn't even know me.
No.
You
No,
know
I
what I
said-
mean? You just met me one or two times on a
I said,
campaign
come on
trail,
over and celebrate Juneteenth.
and you're like, all right.
Stop by.
And you came through, and you know, and you've been a part of Juneteenth ever since. And so, and anything else, you're there. You know, whether it was Juneteenth, whatever the case might be, you're there. If we're doing party in the park, if we're doing 4th of July, it doesn't matter. You show up, and so I appreciate you, and I know the residents of Westchester appreciate you as well.
Yes.
You are our commissioner.
Yes, Cook County Commissioner, and the
Okay.
Westchester is part of the 16th District.
That's absolutely correct. So, as you all know, I tend to switch off and on my trustee hat when I have electics here. So, I'm going to switch my trustee hat on now, and then I'm going to take it back off. So, since we're already in the vein of Westchester, you're up for re-election, right?
Yes, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
Early voting, March 2nd.
So, March 2nd starts early voting.
Yes.
And then March 17th is the actual
voting.
Okay. And do you have your punch number or anything like
101.
that? All right.
Punch number 101.
Okay. All right. And so you've been a commissioner for how many years?
5 years.
Okay.
Finishing
All
my
right.
6th year.
All right. And so why are you rerunning again?
Well, a lot of work to do. I mean, when I first started 5 years ago, one of the priorities was flooding was a big issue. I took a survey, and I put it on the radar. Our infrastructure is very old, over 100 years old, and my opinion, we just mandated it. So when I was going around the district from all the way from North Lake, Melrose Park down to Cicero into LaGrange into Bridgeview, and just find out what's the number one priority, and flooding was up there. And I talked to all the mayors and from this, talked to the state level, municipal level, federal level. I said, listen, we got something about flooding. It's a problem, and the biggest investment that anyone makes is their homes.
That's true.
And flooding is just a big issue, and it's so destructive. So I made that a big deal when I first started, and then I was in the hype of COVID, and that was challenging. So when I got in, I'm not a doctor or a biologist. I made a committee that said this got this virus. No one knows much about it. So I had a panel of experts and let's tackle it, whatever it is, until they find a vaccine. And I had the highest percentage of testing in the county. I was very aggressive. I kept hounding our county hospitals to get testing equipment, Walgreens. I mean, I could have got testing everywhere, and we got our vaccines. I mean, I was just being a nuisance to everybody getting these vaccines. And interesting, I was sponsoring all these testing areas, and I was in first in line. And remember, it was the beginning of a testing, and the way they were testing, stinging your nose,
Oh yeah, I remember
was
that.
very painful.
Yeah.
And I saw people come out, and they were bleeding, and it
Wow.
was horrible. I mean, it was very painful. And I was next, and I go, "Ooh, I gotta go." And I got real scared. I mean, when I see people,
Yeah.
with bleeding, and then one of them fainted. I
Oh
feel,
my
oh
goodness.
my god! But I finally got
So you
tested.
make my nose itch. I'm like,
No, it was
oh.
kind of hilarious. There's a long line, and it goes, "Here's the commissioner, because I'm gonna get tested." And then I see people coming out. I figure, oh, this is scary. Eventually, I did get tested. I got, COVID. I survived, but luckily we're over that, and we're survived, and we're here.
You talked about flooding,
Yes,
and flooding was a huge problem
it still is.
in Westchester, particularly.
Yes,
And then we also have an issue around, infrastructure and lead pipes, right? That
yes,
mandate is in place. All lead pipes have to be removed. There's no getting around it. And Westchester always has an issue obtaining any type of grants because our average median income is higher than what will qualify you for forgivable grants.
yes.
And then even though the loans are there and low interest rate loans are there, sometimes that is not even conducive to particularly Westchester. And that's always been our issue. And so with you up for reelection and that being an issue, along with our taxes that I want you to talk about as
Yes.
well, can you tell me how are you going to help the village of Westchester moving forward with the
Well, I
residents?
tell the mayors, apply for all the grants. Just apply, and I would do the work working with Tony Purperinkle and my colleagues, try to find the money. But the
Okay.
most important thing that all mayors should do, and it's just apply for the grants. I mean, every single one of them. And then we look at the issues, and we try to get funding for these particular items.
So
Funding
you
is a
would
big
say
one.
apply for the grants, even though right off the back we don't meet the qualifications. Just apply
I They
anyway.
just apply for it. You never know.
You never know.
Sometimes there's money that we have to, when we get federal money, we have to spend it. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's still some ARPA money left. We have to spend it by December of 26. Otherwise, we got to give it back, and we don't want to give it back to the
No.
administration. We want to spend every dime. So it's just apply, because sometimes we could work on an amendment saying we had this extra money. It hasn't gone anywhere. Let's appropriate somewhere else, and that might
That
go
might be in
towards
Westchester.
Westchester.
That's right. You
So
see,
we got to think out of the box
I like
and
that.
just apply. It's just apply, and do what I can, and look for the money. So that's basically it. Interesting. I want to talk about a little bit about the helicopter that we got, and that's the way we got one. Another when I came aboard, we're the second largest county in the United States. Los Angeles being the first. Los Angeles has 13 helicopters to help law enforcement and first responders, the firemen. We didn't have one. And I go, well, the sheriff should have a helicopter too, especially back then. Carjacking was still a problem, but back then it was pretty bad. So when I was talking to the president and my colleagues, they go, well, if you find the money, we'll get one. So I talked to the sheriff. We worked on some items and some grant proposals, and we applied at the federal level for federal grant. This is to the Biden administration, and we got a grant to get a helicopter. The Cook County but I was very aggressive in making that. It took me 3 years to convince the board to get the
Wow.
helicopter. State of the art. They want to give us a used one. I go, wait a
You're
minute.
like, no.
No, it's federal money. It's $11.4 million. Then we got additional money for the maintenance of it for the next 8-9 years. And helicopter, we got wings, and it already generated almost $500,000, so it's paying for itself.
How is that possible?
Well, they check drivers, and drivers get crazy, and they
Okay,
speed, and then they
gotcha.
catch them, and they get a love letter, or they catch them and they owe money.
I love the way you say love
Well,
letter.
yeah. I mean, they break the law, they have to pay or something. So it generates, it's paying for itself. And
Okay.
it's made to assist law enforcement we caught potential carjackers and the rescues. I mean, it's a tool. So one of my goals to get reelection is to get another one. Maybe go.
Just get one for Westchester.
Oh yeah, well, okay.
Just VIP
Just
Westchester.
VIP one a helicopter.
I mean, I'm just saying, you on the Vanguard show. Don't play with me. We
Yeah,
gonna
okay.
get one for Westchester.
We'll get one for
right?
Westchester.
Right? Y'all heard that?
We need more. We
Your
need more.
trustee got us a helicopter.
We need more than just one. We need at least a few more. I mean, LA has over 13, and they're huge. We need a couple more to assist law enforcement, assist our firemen, and first responders. It's a tool for rescues, it's a tool to prevent crime, and it's a tool to catch criminals. So it's basically something that helps local law enforcement in Chicago and the western suburbs. So I'm glad that we finally got it, and that's one goal. Another thing is continue on the flood. Just put on radar and just address flooding. It's going to take a long time because, like I said, our system is old. We have to basically rebuild it, and the lead pipes, replace all of them. So we got a long way to go. So some of the projects that I've already started, I want to finish them. Something else I like to tackle is opioid addiction. Everybody's a victim of opioids. I don't care who you are. My nephew was a victim, and it hits home, and it affects, if you have one person who's addicted to opioids, it affects the whole family and the community. It's a difficult position. I spent the last few months before my nephew passed away, and I've learned so much about opioid addiction. He says, Uncle Frank, it's very difficult. It's easy to say stay away from drugs and so forth, but it's an illness. He compared it to having diabetes. He said,
interesting.
He said, I cannot live without these drugs. That's what they call it, self-medication. Diabetic cannot live without insulin. Heart patient cannot live without their medication. I cannot function without these drugs. He goes, I'm always high. And I'm like, oh my dear God, that's why it's a big demand. I like to work on some prevention. Now that they captured, I guess they captured a big cartel in Mexico. The problem with catching the head of a cartel in Mexico, it starts splitting up. It becomes worse because it's a lawless organization. So the guy with the biggest gun wins, and that you catch the big guy. There's factions that are formed, and it becomes worse. So you have to eliminate the entire organization. That's just 50%. Now you got to eliminate the demand of drugs, because you can eliminate the cartels in Mexico, but there's always someone to take over. When there's a demand, there's always going to be a supplier. So it's two ways, not just get rid of the cartels, get rid of the drugs. Okay, if they stop it in Mexico, it's going to pick up somewhere else
because of the demand.
Because of demand.
Because of the addiction.
Yes.
Supply and demand.
So we have to work on the addiction here. We have to work on prevention and address the issues on people who are suffering with addiction and somehow cure them. And I have very hope. It's hopeful. It's a very difficult process, very complex. But I have hope, and it's one issue that I like to tackle. When I'm reelected, and I'm going to be very aggressive on that. I offer Nexitone free of charge in my office, no questions asked. It saves a life. Those saves lives. I mean, the drug addiction has increased in Cook County, but the deaths have fallen because of Nexitone. Person starts facing overdosing, it's a nose medication and it wakes them up. It's a problem, but I think we have to just work on something like that. So that's one problem I like to address.
So I'm going to unpack that, because I think that you hit on a subject that does touch so many people in different ways.
Yes.
And I know that I used to, in one of my former lives, one of many former lives, I used to be a case manager, and I used to go out in the actual, communities and counsel and do rescue pretty much. And the things have saw, I mean, it's unspoke of.
It's horrible.
But what I felt was more of a injustice was how the system gave up on them.
Yes.
And so this sounds great in the lollipop world, everything sounds great, but then in real time, we have a plan that we need to implement, But in real time, we're dealing with human people, right?
Yes,
We're not
human
dealing with
lives.
objects. There's going to be moving pieces, and I see that a lot. And so, with you having this experience firsthand and understanding the intricacies of addiction, right? Tell me about the funding and not only prevention but intervention, because we prevention is one thing, but
Yeah.
the intervention is another. So how are we going to help move forward and pull the demand back so that the supply can decrease? Does that make
Well,
sense
first we
in
have
terms
to
of funding?
fund well with this
Yeah.
administration
Mm-hmm.
in Washington with our president. We were a target, unfortunately, in funding, but we have to maybe demand it from our legislatures. Make this a priority. It's a pandemic and it's destroying our communities, and we have to really, really, really take this seriously. But I think we have to prevent it. If we can
Mm-hmm.
start preventing it, and then take care of the folks that are addicted, because because they want to stop. I've seen it with my nephew. My nephew just wanted to stop, but he couldn't. And I really understood what addiction was all about.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, and it's something that we have to take extremely seriously. I have hope, and that's one issue that I like to tackle down and address it. I like to, give credit to our Tony Perpinko. One issue that she prioritized this time was medical debt. Um, the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical debt,
That is absolutely
and not
correct.
through fault of your own. You could get in medical debt overnight. Not many things are covered by insurance. In fact, my colleague Bill Laurie went for treatment, and he was like, "This part wasn't covered by insurance." And I don't care who you are. Something happens, you could be as healthy as a horse in one day, and then the next day you got to go to the emergency room, and you have a bill that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're in debt. And uh, through Tony Perpinko's leadership, and I sponsored this item, is we eliminated the medical debt to over 600,000 Cook County residents. And it was a process how we did it. Um, in my district, I called all the hospitals. I went myself to visit the hospitals and talk to the administration. They couldn't believe it. They go, "What do you mean? Cook County wants to buy your debt?" And it was a process. People that owe debt, people low income, and so forth. But you had to qualify. And then we bought the debt. The folks got a letter saying you're scot free. You don't owe any more money, and it's just a big relief that they no longer had that debt, because it's a problem. So there's a lot of issues that we like to address and continue addressing on some of these items. Healthcare is one. I believe there should be national healthcare.
I
I
agree
mean,
with you.
we're a strong country, and there's third world nations that have national healthcare. Why can't we have it?
Absolutely. Now let's go back to canceling medical debt, because that's huge, right? I didn't even know that you were doing that, or President Wrinkle was doing
Yes.
that as well. Um, let's back up and talk about the qualifications, because you said there
Well,
were
we
qualifications.
don't, we work directly with the hospitals. The hospitals are the ones that qualify them. They look at old debt, and they look at patients that have been in debt for a number of years. Um, so we let the hospitals qualify them and choose people that are really in need, and they give us the list, and we would eliminate their debt. So there's no way of applying for it. We
I
work directly with the
gotcha.
hospitals.
Okay, and that's why I wanted to
Yes, clarify.
clarify that,
Yeah.
because so many people are probably like,
Oh yeah, me,
me,
I got a bill,
help
but no,
me.
we go through the hospitals, and the hospitals are the ones that go through the process, and then once the hospitals gives us a list of folks, we buy the debt from the hospitals.
That's amazing. Now, is that program still active,
Yes, we're
or?
still active.
Okay.
The President Tony Parker goes, we still got some money left from the funding that we have, so we want to complete that, and not give the money back to the federal government. So we got to make sure we
So,
give it
which
back to the
hospitals
taxpayers.
are participating in this
Well,
program?
quite a few in my district. We have Loyola. Um, that's the biggest hospital in my district. I believe most of them are, but when we approached them, they couldn't believe that was going to happen. We had to kind of like convince them, "Hey, it's going to happen.
Mhm.
Give us your debt."
Wow. I think that's amazing. And I know that there's so many people that always talk about
Yes,
medical debt. And there are people that literally will be in pain and be at home because they can't get the treatment that they need to get. And a lot of people use the emergency room as their insurance
yes,
because you can't get turned away on that. And so, you're mentioning that. I think that's so important that you speak to that on your platform moving forward because that medical debt adversely impacts
everybody.
everybody. And it doesn't even matter if are below in average median income, or at average median income, or above average median income, because the way that the healthcare is set up and the way that those deductibles are
It's
set
not
up,
fair.
you're not going to win. Someone's going to come out with a bill they can't afford.
Yes.
That's just the bottom line.
And people sometimes they have a second mortgage just to pay their hospital
Just to pay
bills.
their hospital because they
That
have
shouldn't happen.
it shouldn't happen like that. You shouldn't have to, leverage your livelihood against your health,
Yes.
you know? So that thank you so much for that.
Well,
So now we're gonna go back and we're gonna talk about taxes. But what I didn't ask you prior to, are you okay with people calling in? Because
yes, you could call in.
okay,
We could
listen.
talk.
If you want to call in and ask our commissioner a question, the number is 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953. Do not call his cell phone because he's live, so he's not going to answer. And then don't call me because I'm live. Here I am. So don't call me. Call the studio. All right. All right. So now let's talk about taxes because I know that's something you wanted to dig in deep.
Yeah.
And trust me, as a homeowner, I feel it too. Everybody is talking about the taxes.
The
So
board, the Cook County Board, is a legislative body. People say, what does the county do? Well, we have a president, Tony Peppermint, executive, and then we got the legislature, which is like Congress of the county, what you call it, commissioners, and then we got the courts. We got the Cook County courts. It's the assessor to assess the taxes with the board of review, and then the municipalities. The libraries and the schools and the cities. Those are the ones that are that are in charge of taxes. And if someone comes and says this, I'm going to lower your taxes. Well, good luck. It's no one. It's almost, you could maybe freeze them. There's exemptions that you could apply for if you own your home. There's an exemption, and I've had many workshops with the board of review in my district. If you're a senior, there's another exemption, and if you're a veteran, there's another exemption. So there's programs where you can at least freeze them or lower them to help you with your property taxes. So I want to just clarify: it's not the Cook County Board that's in charge of property taxes. It's the assessor and the board of review, and the treasurer is the one that hands out the tax bills. Um, that's how the county operates.
So I know you wanted to clear that up because I'm sure
Yes.
you get that a lot,
Yes.
right? And they're pointing the finger at you. You're like, my taxes.
Well,
You're like,
I
wait,
we
I have
talk to the board
no
review.
control over
Yes,
that, right?
board review, and we direct the right direction.
So when we're doing appeals, because I appeal all the time.
Yes.
I mean, I appeal religiously. I don't even care if it's in line or out. I'm appealing. It don't matter.
You gotta be
Because
yeah.
it's important to me to stay on top of it. But that's very hard, even for me, well-bodied person to do it. I've heard a lot of seniors having a hard time, going up to the assessor's office or waiting to be seen.
Yes.
You got all this paperwork and then they don't have the right paperwork. So they got to come back. They got to arrange a ride. It just gets overbearing. So what kind of programs are in place to help our seniors with appeals?
Well, usually some municipalities have local assessors. You can contact their local assessor. You got to be very careful because there's companies that mail.
Exactly. Talk about that.
Okay, they mail brochures saying we can lower your taxes, your property taxes, and they show Cook County. So it's Cook County, and people think it's coming from Cook County, but these are private companies that want your business, and you hire them to lower your taxes, and they charge you a fee in trying to lower your taxes. Go directly to your local assessor, and it's free. They'll do it for you, or go to the Cook County assessor or your board of review. You don't have to hire someone to appeal your taxes directly to your municipality, ask where you can, appeal your taxes. There's like windows of opportunity to do it. There's certain times you can do it. Ask when's the next one is, and then it's just apply and go and appeal them. But do not hire someone to appeal your taxes.
And that's where I was hoping you would say, because I get that a lot.
Especially seniors are victims to this.
Exactly. I think they're the most vulnerable, group, so that we have to protect them when we're talking about appeals and taxes and what that looks like. All right. So you actually have virtual kind of conversations. You've done virtual town halls. You try to reach your constituents right where they're at, right?
Yes.
At all costs. And one thing I do know about you, you are a fearless advocator. That is clear. You are passionate about something, you are not going to let it go, and I think that's what makes you a great public servant. In your conversations with your constituents, because you do have the second largest, district, right? Outside of taxes, what are some of the other concerns or fears that you kind of hear that's becoming more of a theme?
Well, flooding, taxes, some economic development, addiction. Those seems to be the ones that are highlighted.
Outside of that, is there anything else? Think about it now.
I mean, there's a lot of issues that we have to solve.
Let's unpack. Yes. Let's talk about it, right? Because here's the deal. I know that you're listening, and I know you're actively listening to.
I like to focus on certain. I mean, there's a lot of items, but I like there's certain. I like to put the attention on the ones that when I put a survey out there and listen to the constituency and the community, which is your priorities. Like I had coffees this year throughout the district and talked to folks and say, I hear from them. What's your priority? Flooding keeps coming up. Taxes keeps coming up.
So immigration doesn't come up?
Immigration is immigration is a big one.
I'm fishing.
I know.
You are making me work. Didn't I tell you don't make me work too hard today in this interview? You're making me work too hard.
Unfortunately, I have a plan.
Okay, let's unpack
to get ICE out of here.
Okay, I'm listening. We're all listening.
I've seen ICE I live in Cicero, and we're a target, and ICE seems to be very comfortable there for some reason. People get kidnapped. I've seen U.S. citizens.
You said people get kidnapped?
Well, that's what they grab them out of the street. I've seen it. I've seen with my own eyes. They grab people out of the street, and it's terrorizing our communities. I've gone to the detention center to assist families to take their loved ones that have been taken unlawfully taken off the street, workers. And businesses are suffering. Sales are down, especially with restaurants. People are afraid to go to school. They're afraid to go shopping. They're afraid to go eat somewhere because of this fear. The way they're doing it, people say, well, we got to get rid of the criminals. Well, less than 2% of undocumented residents are criminals. And they're arresting, nobody has any problems arresting criminals. Everybody wants them out of the community. Absolutely. You don't want them in our community, but undocumented residents generate I can talk about my district, almost over $550 million a year. That's just the undocumented.
Wow.
Specifically, most of it in Cicero. Cicero undocumented residents generate over $200 million. That's just the undocumented. So they work. They got they're waiters. They construction workers. They're landscapers. They buy homes. Many of them own their own businesses, and they provide jobs, and they generate. They're part of our economy. And it's interesting enough. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he owned a big business, and we were supposed to go out to eat somewhere. And I called him up. Let's go out to eat. And he goes, "Well, I don't want to go out." I go, "Why not?" And he told me why. He was undocumented. And I go, "You?" And this guy has like a thriving business, and he employs about 100 people. And he was afraid to leave his house. So it just tells you what undocumented residents contribute to our economy. People are being terrorized. It's nothing short than being terrorized. It's the way it's being done. No one's going to say, don't go after the criminals. Go after the criminals. But don't cause chaos. They say, well, Obama and Biden and Clinton deported more than Trump. But the way he's doing it, he's terrorizing communities. and inflicting fear. They arrest everybody. A friend of mine was a veteran. They picked him up because he spoke Spanish. That's where we're being targeted. My plan is, and I've talked about it in Telemundo, is get ICE out of here. Let maybe the sheriff's department get in charge. We legitimize the warrants. And I had so many Know Your Rights workshops throughout the district. A year ago in January, I had about almost 30 nonprofit agencies with the at the Teamsters Hall. These local Teamsters Local 777 sponsored it, and through in the Resurrection Project had the training, and we trained about 30 uh, agencies on Know Your Rights, and it was a big campaign we took off. We saw this coming. The network was there. We just activated, and then they've trained leaders in these organizations to go out and start pushing know your rights, and start educating our residents on knowing your rights. And it was effective because even with the czar, the guy they call the czar, he says, we can't arrest them in Chicago because they know their rights. Damn right, they know their rights because we're educating our people to protect them. There's civil rights. Whether you're an undocumented resident, a U.S. citizen, you have rights. You're, any human being that puts foot on this country that lives here has certain rights. And we made a very aggressive campaign, and I had several Know Your Rights projects, seminars and workshops throughout my district, showing people their rights. And my plan is get rid of ICE, let the sheriffs get in charge. We have to work with law enforcement. I know there's this little controversial there, but we got to work with law enforcement. County works with local law enforcement. They know where the bad guys are. They don't have to go invading a street in Cicero or in Little Village and terrorize the neighborhood, or terrorize a school, or a daycare center. There's an intelligence operations that law enforcement has. They've been doing it for God knows how long. They know their job, and they know where to find them. They go and arrest them quietly, and off they go. Here you go, ICE. Here's the criminal. Get rid of them. There's ways of doing it. At the same time, we can generate. There's I think $13 billion that the federal government has for us to do this. So we can generate money for the county, working with the sheriff's department, working with local law enforcement, and targeting actual criminals, not terrorizing neighborhoods, not going to businesses and because you're speaking Spanish on the street, they'll get this person and arrest him, and then later on you find out he's a U.S. citizen. I've seen it happen.
I'm a little perplexed. So, and I'm going to help you. You just help me to understand this, because what you're saying is almost in my mind how they painted their their strategic plan with when they implemented ICE, right? Their plan was exactly sort of what you said. We're going to work with local police, first responders. We're going to only target those who are criminals. We're going to work with our local officials and elected officials. We're going to do this thing in a harmony type way, and then none of that came to fruition. It was just kind of like all out guns blazing, for lack of better words. Right. And so you're saying what they said that they're going to do in a lot of ways. And I'm trying to understand that if you're saying, why don't we do this? And there's money here, and they said that that's how they're going to do it. Where is the disconnect from the planning and the execution in real life?
I don't understand why we're not doing, there's a process in place that we're not using. That's why ICE is here. This guy, I think he lost his mind, to be honest with you. Look at I have to give credit to Mayor Thompson, Katrina Thompson. I had her, I had her as a guest at a Facebook Live with the mayor of Bellwood and the mayor of Maywood. But she was getting a lot of criticism because she took the bull by the horns and making sure that the protesters and the first responders and the people that she her residence is to protect them, but she saved so many lives. She was avoiding what happened in Minnesota and what happened in Franklin Park. People have gotten killed.
I want to talk about and that's great, but I want to talk about the plan that you said, right? how do we begin to work with our local first responders to activate that intelligence system that we all know it does
We have to
exist?
be open to
How do
working
we
with
do
law
that?
enforcement.
As far as you know, local, you're an elected official. You
Yes.
represent your constituents. Tell me what collaboration looks like to actually get this started.
We have to be open to work with local law enforcement. We have
Is
to
that one of the blocks? Are you saying
one of the
that?
blocks
Okay.
because ICE is going to come in here and do whatever they want. That's the federal government. You can't fight the federal government locally. They're going to do what they want, especially with this president. He doesn't care. So let's we should take control of our own community, not bring the National Guard or ICE and the feds here to do the job that our law enforcement agencies could do. They have the capability, they got the knowledge, they got the intelligence to do it. They've been doing it for so long. Let them do their job. They know what they're doing and they know where the criminals are at. We got to take control of our communities, working with sheriffs, working with the state, and working with local law enforcement. We know where they're at. They know where to catch them, and we'll be happily give them to the federal government to deport them.
Okay.
We have no issues with that. But
Okay.
leave the working folks alone. Leave people that families, especially, stop tearing families apart. Uh, you know, um, they just want to be left alone. I mean, they're productive residents in our community. You know, many of our undocumented. What we need is immigration reform. You want to solve the problem? Let's have immigration reform.
There you go.
You know,
Let's unpack that.
it's exactly. I like we have, I was talking to one of the speakers at the House a long time ago. I'm not going to say his name. And we were talking about this, the Kennedy McCain bill. It's perfect. We've looked at immigration reform backwards and forwards, and it's been debated. It's been debated left and right since, I would say, since Kennedy. Okay, we know what we have to do. The problem is, do we want to do it? And this is coming from someone in Washington who happened to be the Speaker of the House at that time. Told me the problem is we don't want to do it, and I got that from the horse's mouth. We don't want to do it.
Why?
Uh, he didn't tell me why, but he just says just keep that in mind. And you didn't hear it from you didn't hear it from me, so that's why I'm not saying his name. The Kennedy bill is very simple. You have undocumented residents. They've been here for how long? This is in a nutshell. They broke the law. Okay, they got to pay a fee. I think it's like $5,000 or $6,000 or $10,000, whatever the fee is. You broke the law, you pay. There you go. Okay, you prove that you're a taxpayer. You're paying your taxes. You learn English. You prove that you're generating money honestly. You're running a business, or you have a job. You pay your taxes. You're a productive resident in the city, and you learn the language, or you go to school if you need to go to school to, get a better job somewhere. I think 3-4 years, or I forgot the time. Once you pass all that, you get your legal status of being a resident, a legal resident. Okay. Same thing. You continue doing what you're doing. Prove that you're a productive uh, resident. You're contributing to society. I think I forgot the number of years that go by. Okay, now you prove yourself that you're contributing to our community. You become a U.S. citizen. You learn English. You speak English. You went to school. You got your degrees. You're prepared. You run a business. You're generating. You contribute to our economy. You become a U.S. citizen. It's a very simple bill, and it's classic. Why haven't we passed it? We don't want to do it. And I got that from someone who was the Speaker of the House at the time. Says the problem is, do we want to do it in Washington? There you have it. We don't want to do it.
And so the chaos continues in real
Exactly.
time in our communities.
Yes. Interesting, isn't it?
That is beyond interesting.
And I got that from Washington, D.C., and I got it from a very viable person who happens to be a Speaker of the House at the time when I went there years back.
And I don't.
I mean, look at Congressman Gutierrez. How long has he fought to get immigration reform? Congressman Chuy Garcia. How long has he fought to get, and other congressmen in Washington, to get immigration reform. What else do they have to do? I mean, it's been packaged and redone and redebated and revisited and rewritten over and over. What are we waiting for?
Sometimes it's more financially beneficial to operate in chaos
Might
than
be.
operate
I don't know.
to operate in peace. So I'm gonna sit that there,
Okay.
right? Because you getting real deep, and we're gonna switch gears real quick, okay?
Oh, talk about okay.
All right. So let's switch to more about you, and then we'll circle back around to the organized labor because you do a lot of work with that.
Yes.
And then you also, when we're talking about immigration, you did a lot of work with that prior to. And so, but let's just talk about who you are. And before we do that, I want you all to recognize the passion that he just exhibited when we started talking about immigration. We started talking about things that are important to you, that are your values, Frank. And that is what I want people to see. And you showed that. And when I say that you're a passionate advocate, you literally show that. You're turning red. If you all can't see it, he's turning red, okay? Because he was serious about it. And that is just who you are genuinely, right? I will always want you on my team, by the way, because
Well,
I know that if it goes down, I'm calling you. You're going to make sure you're going to fight for me, just like you do for everybody else. Where does that come from?
well, I had great parents, very loving parents. They gave me a good, Catholic family, and I was studying to be a priest.
No
Yeah,
way.
I
So
Jesuit.
I shouldn't swear.
Oh, well,
Not that I was
now
going
you
to do it
could.
anyway, but
Now you could,
maybe
because
I
I'm
should.
not a
Okay,
seminarian.
okay.
And that's I majored in philosophy at Loyola. I ended up at Loyola University, Jesuit University.
Philosophy.
Yes.
Interesting.
And I always wanted to get a doctorate degree in philosophy, but that never happened. I'm trying to get one now.
Who
But
was who was the philosopher that you admire the
St.
most?
Thomas Aquinas,
Tell me why.
because he had, if you read his Summa Theologica, you have to understand Greek and Roman philosophy to understand his, how he compared to the Gospels. Very passionate philosopher. I also like Descartes. Descartes was more of a mathematician, so he kind of like mathematics and science combined with theology. It's fascinating
Wow,
stuff.
that's interesting.
Yes, so I would say the French philosopher Descartes and Saint Thomas Aquinas are probably my favorite ones. You know, I love Plato and Aristotle, but there are those, in the pre-Socratics, before Socrates, foundation of philosophy. But there's Eastern philosophy, which is completely different. I mean, you compare different philosophers from different parts of the world, and I think philosophy is people should study philosophy because it opens up your mind and you understand religions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
philosophy helps you understand Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, whatever the religion is. Philosophy helps you. There's a philosophy of religion, and it helps you understand where all these come from and why people believe what they believe. It doesn't matter what you believe, as long as you believe in something and you're passionate about it and do it.
So you study ministry.
Yes. And interesting enough, I was telling there's no difference between atheists and someone who believes in God. And let me tell you why.
Oh, yeah, because I was going to say,
Okay.
you already know I was going to ask
Someone who
why.
believes in God, Christian, Muslim, or Jewish, or whatever. Man is created in the image of God. That's most religions say that we are a creature of God. You tell an atheist what is a human being, the atheist will say, well, man is a reflection of the complexity of the universe. In essence, it's the same thing. We're a complex being made from something great, whether you call it God or the universe. And that's who we are as human beings. We reflect that wonderful greatness that's called existence in being human. And when I was studying philosophy in Loyola, we had discussion, and I came up with that. I go, well, there's an atheist and there's people who believe in God. And in essence, they say the same thing. We are human beings. We're a complex being, and we reflect the greatness of what we call the universe or God itself.
It seems that your background just kind of oozes through like what you do every
Yes.
single day. So when you're fighting for folks, you're fighting for people because you know it's the right thing to do.
So I've seen the
Bottom
abuse. I
line.
started as a union organizer. I used to go back in the 80s. Labor laws were very friendly to the laborers, and I used to go undercover factories and work
Yeah,
undercover.
I read something about
I've
that.
melted plastic, I've melted steel, I even killed chickens, which is the worst job I ever had, to organize unions. And I've seen strikes. I've seen people get hurt in strikes. I've
Mm.
got hurt many times doing strikes. When I visit strikes right now, strikes are not as violent as they used to be. I've seen people get hurt. A couple of times, people gotten killed. Um, but when I go to a strike, I don't just go there just to visit the strikers. I bring them food in the summertime. Bring them, cold drinks. In the winter, you bring them hot drinks. Because I've been there. I've been there. Bring my car, put the air conditioner on, go in the car, get a little, fresh, cool off a little bit, just something to drink, and back on the picket line. I've been there. But back in the 80s, strikes were rough. They were rough.
Why did you, I mean, there's so many different causes you could have picked back in the 80s, even now, when you picked that cause. What was it?
Well, after I left the seminary, I seen the abuse and a victim of racism. I lived in Cicero. I grew up in Cicero, and that's really got me started in my public service. My dad was very dark. And he had 2-3 jobs. He was a janitor, and he would get off the train like 2:00 in the morning and run to his part-time job in Western Electric, was no longer there, and he used to get arrested because he was dark, a dark man. And that's what drove me to get involved in politics, to change the discrimination, the hatred that I experienced in the town that I lived years ago, and got involved politically. And that's like the beginning. Became a union organizer, saw the injustice, and I like doing it because you make things happen for people. From there I did junior achievement, and I expanded their programs to the western suburbs, and then I ran a chamber of commerce, Little Village, back in the 90s, and a lot of Mexican, Latino businesses wanted to move to the western suburbs, and I helped them do that. But Cicero, Berwyn, the western suburbs started. There was a growth of the Latino community. So the businesses in the Chicago and the Latino area saying, we want to follow our clients, and follow them. So, working with suburbs, with Cicero, with Berwyn, few of the districts that I represent, to expand into the western suburbs and have their sus panaderias, the bakeries, the mechanic shops, the beauty salons, and the grocery stores, to sell Mexican, Hispanic food to the residents that are moving out to the western suburbs. So make it convenient. Now they don't have to go, if you live in the western suburbs, now you don't have to go back to Chicago and Pilsen, Little Village, to buy tortillas.
That's true.
or buy, pan mexicano. Now you could buy it at your local grocery store in the western suburbs. So I did that for quite a while, and I was a state legislature in Springfield. And one of the items that we did, and I give credit to Representative Eddie Acevedo, and we partner up on getting licenses for the undocumented. There's a lot of controversy. Say, why can't undocumented? Why can't you have license? They're illegally here. They shouldn't be driver's license. But wait a minute, I got the support of law enforcement and insurance company. Back then, an undocumented resident gets into an accident, and guess what? He doesn't exist. He's gone. They're gone. You're scot-free. Who gets stuck with the bill? You do. Your insurance policy goes up. The person that hit you, who's undocumented, he's gone. So now we, putting the undocumented residency, they have the right, to have their have a driver's license. Kind of like, now, if you get into an accident, you're liable. You got to get insurance, and you have to pay your dues. You hit someone, you got to pay. So insurance companies were for it. Insurance companies were for it. Law enforcement wasn't for it. And residents could no longer were driving in fear because now they got a license. And then I want to thank, I forgot which legislator, because they used to have like a little purple line. Now the licenses look the same, and undocumented residents have driver's license. It makes them accountable, and they have to get insurance, and they have to abide by the law.
Absolutely. So we are coming close to wrapping up. Yes. I told you it was going to go quick. It's like super quick. Are you going to come back?
Yes.
You promise?
I promise. And then I'll give you a ride on the bike.
Oh my God. Listen, we're going to go live when we go ride. You all, I'm so serious. When you all see this Harley that he has,
Harley Davidson, Heritage Classic to 2006. I've gone to Mexico. I've gone far.
you going to
Mexico, Canada,
Mexico?
California, the bike. Oh, but my real profession is a biker.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it right there. That's the heartbeat. And when you see him come in the summertime, he's got Harley Davis gear down, like he's ready. So now everybody knows that I love bikes. And so now everybody knows that you owe me a ride. So now you're just committed
That's
without a
right.
doubt. All right. And within my term, like don't, stretch it out anymore. There's only been 3 years since I've been asking for it.
Was that
Right?
long? Oh my God. I owe you more than one ride then.
Yeah.
We'll go down Lakeshore Drive. That's
Oh
a
my
nice
God.
ride.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
In the summertime.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. All right, all right. So as we wrap up, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions to close with, and then I want you to make sure you give your social handles and how people could get in contact with you moving forward, and then also remind them of the voting dates. Okay. So you have emphasized leadership and you've grounded that into reality. And it's not just talking points for you. How do you stay connected as an elected official?
I eat out a lot. My lunches and breakfasts in restaurants, and I try to talk to people and listen to them. The big thing that people in public service, you have to be a listener. Your
I
opinion,
agree.
you have your opinion, but that's irrelevant. You listen to the folks.
I agree.
They're the ones who tell you what's out there and what you need to focus on. And that's where I get my information. Talk to the business owners, talk to the local resident, the people that rent the apartments or the homeowners, parents. And just listen to them and, you know, uh, what's important to them. That's our job, is to listen to them and address these issues.
Absolutely. When you think about impact you want to leave on the 16th district, what legacy are you working towards?
Well, eliminating flooding, crack down on the opioid addiction, help businesses thrive. The small businesses are the backbone of our community's economy. You know, uh, Maybe start programs with kids, with high schoolers. Many of them don't, when they go to college, they don't want to be doctors or attorneys. When we get out of high school, they want to get a job right away. So I like to do something with unions, with, you know, putting them in, we put them electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and do apprenticeship with unions. And once they get their certificates and their training, they can be part of the union and get these jobs. They could earn up to $75 to $100 an hour.
I know. I missed the train. I said I needed to be a part
Yes,
of the union.
open up their own business.
I mean, I'm like, trades is where it's
You're
at.
always gonna need an electrician.
You're always
You're
going to need
always gonna need a plumber.
plumber.
You're
Yes.
always gonna need a carpenter.
Absolutely.
You're always gonna need a mechanic. The
Absolutely.
jobs and the unions got the jobs, and the unions got the places where you can get hired, and you make a great living.
You sure do. You sure do.
So I
I
like to
would like
tackle that.
to work with you on that. If you
Yes.
decide to do that, I definitely want to make sure I collaborate with you on that. If listeners remember one thing about you, not just the title, what would you want them to remember?
About
You.
me,
One thing about
that
you.
I'm trying my best. I'm not perfect. I listen to them. It doesn't matter how small their issue is, because it could be a small issue, but for them, it's the world. And I try to solve one problem at a time, because it may not be, it might be, like I said, a little thing, but for them, it's the whole world. I never promise anything. What I do promise, I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to try to solve it if I could.
Okay, I love that. Why don't you tell them how to reach you?
I'm at 7833 Ogden Avenue in Lyons. You can have my email is a Cook County Commissioner, Frank J. Aguilar, uh, uh, .com. You can reach me there, and I'm in and out. So, but I always have someone on staff, because I'm always visiting some of the mayors or some of the elected officials, like you, or basically residents,
And the
out and about,
residents.
to find out what's going on.
You're definitely out and about. You're definitely a part of the community and you are definitely reachable. So thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on the VANNguard show.
Well, thank you for having me here.
I want to thank my sponsor, Sarah Berry, for water reclamation. Don't forget that
March 17th
is what
Election Day. Press 101, Frank J. Engler, County Commissioner.
He's like, I'm going to go ahead and get my plug. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I will see you next time on The VANNguard Show.
Thank you.